Hello, everyone. My name is William Hanson. I am an etiquette coach. I'm sitting here in London, and it's my honour and privilege to speak to you today all about etiquette and good manners, and indeed my upcoming book, which is released in May, on the 27th of May, called Just Good Manners. Now, I am an etiquette coach. It is a real job, despite what the British Government Tax Collection Agency says to me every year. It is an odd job, I will be honest, but it is a job I love and have been privileged to do for the last nearly 18 years. I'll get on to more as to what etiquette is, what an etiquette coach actually is, for those of you who maybe don't know or haven't heard me talk about it before. But very excitingly, I would like to let you know that if you would like a signed edition, a luxury signed autographed edition of Just Good Manners, the US edition of Just Good Manners, then please head to signedgoodmanners.com. Signedgoodmanners.com. And today, if you use the code GOOD15, guess what? You get a 15% discount at checkout. So signedgoodmanners.com. I'll remind you of that later on if you need reminding, or you can go to my social media and there's a link in my bio that will take you through it. But that discount is only available today. Good 15 is the discount for 15% off. So let's talk about the book itself, Just Good Manners. Now, as some of you may know, I have written etiquette books before, but they have been different. They have been very different from what I produced. It came out in the UK last year, and it comes out in the United States of America and Canada on May the 27th, as I say. And my first two books were tiny. If anyone's ever seen them, they are very small. The first one is about 20,000 words. The second one is about 22,000 words. And they were written as part of a series that was very popular over here in Britain called the Bluffer's Guide series. And it's very much sort of almost a my first etiquette book type of concept. Very tongue-in-cheek, British humour, which actually, to be fair, has flown into most of my etiquette books, including Just Good Manners as well, but with an educational angle in there as well. So those were quite small and written quite a long time ago. And as I will say constantly during our conversation today, Good Manners evolves. It has to evolve. And actually, bits of what I wrote, I must have written it in sort of 2010, 2011, published probably in 2012. Bits of what I wrote back then would not be relevant today, because etiquette is this it's a shapeshifter. It constantly changes and evolves as society evolves in order to survive and be relevant to life as it is today. Then I've also written a very, very academic protocol textbook called Protocol to Manage Relationships Today, which I worked on with some of my colleagues in the Netherlands and Portugal. And then there was the book that accompanies one of the podcasts I do, Help I Sexted My Boss, that came out in 2023, which is very, very modern advice aimed at those that enjoy our podcast, and sort of very ultra-modern etiquette, such as dating or the gym or going out with a group of friends. And there is some similarity with Just Good Manners. But Just Good Manners is, I like to think of it as an etiquette book that answers all the questions that maybe sort of traditional etiquette books, maybe Emily Post, Amy Vanderbilt, or here in Britain, Debrett's, wouldn't necessarily go near. Now, there's nothing wrong with any of those other books. I should just say they're all marvellous books. In fact, that Debrett's that I referenced, an edition of that was given to me by my grandmother when I was 12, which is what got me into etiquette. And if I hadn't have read it or hadn't been given it, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today, and the book would not be about to be released. So, huge credit to them. However, particularly the British editions, I found that they were really good if you were going to be dining with an ambassador, or you would just needed to sort of drop something around to the Archbishop of Canterbury. But they weren't necessarily particularly helpful to everybody else whose life did not involve those sort of activities, which, let's be honest, is most people. And etiquette it's ageless, it's timeless, it's classless, and in many ways priceless. And no one is exempt from having courtesy, civility, and charm. And so I really wanted to write an etiquette book that reflected life as it is today, rather than this sort of aspirational Downton Abbey-esque sort of picture that people have in their heads. And I think that's one of the misconceptions of etiquette, is that people think that etiquette is sort of people like me and people that do my jobs and people that sound like me want everybody to live in this sort of halcyon, lovely sort of picturesque Jane Austen type environment, and that's obviously not what we want. We want something a little bit more relevant to life as it is today. The principles of good manners stay the same, whether it's the period of Jane Austen, of Downton Abbey in Edwardian England, the post Second World War, or today. The principles of putting people at ease, respecting people, treating people with consideration, and having self-respect, they are timeless, ageless, and classless, as I say. How we do that is by using a set of rules, and that etiquette changes and evolves. And we'll talk more about that later on. The hardest part of writing the book process, which a lot of people have asked me, certainly at the book events that I've been doing in the UK or did last year when we launched it in Britain, is what was the hardest process? Now, I like writing. I'm very, very fortunate I'm able to do it. Obviously, this is my most comprehensive work on etiquette. This one, I should say, is about 78,000 words, so it's much bigger than anything that I have produced before. I write articles. I've written textbooks, things that are not on the public market as well. So I like that process. The thought of getting up each morning, sitting at my desk where I'm sitting, talking to you now, and writing is something that really excites me. The hardest part of it, however, was the fact that I was given 2.5 months to write the book, which is not an awful lot of time. Most non-fiction books, I believe, it depends how much research needs to go into it, but you sort of would get at minimum about 6 months is what I am told. And most other authors, when I've said, well, I was given 2.5 months to write this, have sort of broken out in a cold sweat. As indeed I broke out in a cold sweat when I was told I needed to do this. Thankfully, because I would like to say I know my subject reasonably well, it wasn't completely impossible. Well, it wasn't impossible. It's done. It's the product that hopefully you will be ordering. And however, it would have been nice just to have a little bit of a slightly longer time. There was a holiday that we were going on to Miami that was already booked, and I was way behind my deadline. And I thought, look, if I can leave Miami having written 10,000 words, we were only there for 5 or 6 nights, then that's a win. I think I wrote 3,000 words because it was quite hard when my husband was sort of lying by the pool and I was sitting in my room looking down out the window at him by the pool. It is quite hard. I sort of said I'll do the mornings by the pool and the afternoons I'll write. But yes, there was no creativity that flowed at that point. So that was the hardest part. And also being away on holiday, I took 1 or 2 reference books with me to back up various things. But yes, it's nicer to sort of be here with all my books around me that I can go to if I just need to cross-reference a date or a name of a person. My favourite part is that I was able to sort of write about areas of etiquette that have not been written about. Can you believe? One of the books, one of the traditional authorities on etiquette in terms of sort of the reference books, I went to go and see what they had written, and they had revised something and brought something out literally 2 years ago. And I thought, I'll go and see what they actually have published about the honorific, the title Ms. MS that you would put ahead of a female identifying person's name. And it was exactly as it was in the edition they brought out 10 years ago. And it was still this tiny little 7-word footnote at the bottom of page 204, as if it was something to be slightly scared of. Now, we should just say, if you are new to the world of Ms., Ms is what you would put on the front of somebody's name where you don't know if they are married or not. So Miss or Mrs. is the conventional. Miss for a single woman, Mrs. for a married woman, although it can be for a divorced woman as well. But Ms., which actually goes back hundreds of years, but sort of came into popularity in the 1900s, is widely used today, definitely in business, pretty much all socially. And even when Harry and Meghan were engaged and the announcement was announced from Clarence House, from the then Prince of Wales, the now King, they actually used Ms. Now, the royal household traditionally did not use Ms. They sort of were a little bit old-fashioned about it and insisted it had to be Miss or Mrs. But even if they are using it publicly, that's basically them saying, guys, come on, we're okay with this now. It's fine. And so for the etiquette authorities not to have sort of actually written about that, and actually it is completely acceptable, and the correct way to use it and the incorrect ways to use it was baffling to me. So that was what I loved doing about the book, is being able to write about topics that really desperately needed to be written about, because there's nothing to be scared of with myths. Similarly, what I didn't want the book to do is, and there's only a little bit of this in it, if you really do want to know how to address the Earl of Grantham, for example, to use one of the main characters in Downton Abbey as an example, this isn't really the book for you. There are lots of other great books that do that. We do talk about the English aristocracy. I cannot write a book, being a Brit, without talking about it, but it really is proportionally a very small part of the book. This book is an etiquette book for everyday life, and I wanted it to be useful. I have a lot of same-sex friends, and it's really interesting at Christmas when we exchange Christmas cards and they get posted through the mail. Even my same-sex friends don't know how to address other same-sex couples on the envelope. And again, turn to your etiquette authorities and the sort of the traditional etiquette books, or even look online. There's no guidance. And so I thought, gosh, well, if even same-sex couples don't know what to do, someone's got to tell them. And I think that's one of the two roles that etiquette manuals have. One is to provide instruction to those that are around at the time that they are published. And then I think their second role comes 50, 100 years later to tell future generations how we were living and to reflect life almost as a sociological point of view. From a sociological perspective, that's sort of their second purpose, which is sort of slightly daunting to think that maybe, who knows, someone in 50 to 100 years might read my book and go, well, how are they behaving in 2025? Or how were they meant to be behaving, we should say, in 2025? So that was sort of my favourite part of writing the book. And also putting it, and I'm going to say this, I don't know if any of you have listened to any of my podcasts that I do, or have seen videos that I've done on social media, but I have put a couple of Easter eggs in there as well. So if you know what to look out for, if you are a fan of Help I Sexted My Boss or the Luxury Podcast, or any of my other work, there are one or two, in fact, more than one or two little Easter eggs as we go through that won't alienate new readers at all, but are there for those that know. The biggest misconception that people have about good manners really is that it is elitist. To be fair, the phrase "good manners" is much more is a friendlier phrase than etiquette. Let's be honest, etiquette is an old French word, used to mean ticket or label, but then morphed into meaning a rule of behaviour. Goes back to Louis XIV of France, the Sun King who built Versailles, which is beautiful, just outside of Paris. And their etiquette was exclusive. It was deliberately designed to keep the French court from uprising and rebelling against Louis XIV, and then Louis XV and XVI as well. Didn't work for Louis XVI, obviously, because he got his head chopped off, and that's when the French Revolution happened. But it was divisive, it was elitist. But again, etiquette evolves, and the need for etiquette now is not to keep people in their boxes or anything like that, but still so many people think that etiquette is there to make other people look good and other people not look good. Now, as a byproduct of having charm, civility, grace, and decorum, yes, a person does look good. There is no getting around that. But we should all be civil, charming, courteous, and exercise decorum. That's sort of what we're meant to be doing as human beings. We need to be nice to one another. And I think now in particular, there are so many different ways to interact with one another. We have technology. I can pick up my phone now and be talking to somebody in Mumbai just as easily as I can be talking to someone in Miami. And so we need to know and be aware of how our actions come across to others and how they affect others. So yes, if you follow 80% of what I suggest in Just Good Manners, then yeah, you can, you will look better, but you're not doing it at the detriment of other people. And actually, a really lovely quote. I can't remember whoever said it, and I've looked it up online and I can't find it. But if you know, please let me know. A good quote is sort of a good motto is one should aspire to raise people to your own standard rather than to sink to theirs. And I think it's very easy now, particularly in life in Britain and America and Canada and in all countries, sort of to not bother or to only think of yourself. But actually, good manners are selfless, not selfish. And the idea is that I'm thinking of you and you're thinking of me. And it's this lovely sort of circle, and we all keep each other. So we all look after each other. That is the idea. Now, I mentioned technology, of course, and how this use of technology that we have, this ease of access of technology, is meant to is there to help us interact with other people. And again, etiquette has to evolve. I've said it a million times, and again, if you pick up the first edition of Emily Post, she is not talking about mobile phones for obvious reasons. They were not invented. And so one of the jobs I think that we in the etiquette industry have is to sort of use common sense principles and precedents and say, okay, this is how we should use a mobile telephone, a cell phone, for example, or using internal messaging systems that you might use at work, whether that's Microsoft Teams or Slack or Google Messenger. Actually, this is sort of how it should be used. There is an etiquette for literally everything. And again, it depends generationally. I mean, I'm a millennial, and millennials are not known for loving directly phoning somebody. If I have another millennial friend who phones me rather than texts or emails me, I will automatically assume there's a problem. And actually, there may not be. Whereas my parents' generation will pick up the phone, and it doesn't mean that there's a problem. It's just that they want to chat to somebody. So there's obviously a generational consideration with technology etiquette in particular. But actually, how we come across is online, on Zoom, on Teams, whatever it is just as important as how we come across when we meet someone at a cocktail party. Now we're using technology to have this conversation. If you're having an online meeting, often it's the first time you meet somebody. Could be the only time you meet somebody. You're never actually going to meet them in person. You're only going to see them online. And so it's the same principles of judging people within 7 seconds. Harvard proved that in 2017 with their study of communications. We do judge people very quickly within 7 seconds. Is it good that we're judging people? Probably not, but it happens. It's something that we copy from animals. It's animal instinct. When a mouse sees a cat, it makes a very snap judgment in order to survive. And we are doing the same thing as well as humans. When we see other humans, we are making snap judgments in order to survive, whether we like it or not. So again, the first time someone sees you, if they see you on Zoom and your shot is chaotic, you're too close to the camera, you're moving around, it's noisy background noise. Again, that's forming part of that first impression, which probably may not contribute to a very good first impression. So my advice to everyone on Zoom or online meetings is hold still, be still as it's connecting. We like calm. People respond better to calm. Make sure the camera's in line with your eye, so we have eye-to-eye contact. Good lighting technology, everybody knows that now after years of Zoom meetings during COVID. But also just make sure the distance is good. If you are too close to your camera, especially in those first few seconds when the connection fires up and the camera turns on, if you are too close, it triggers the other person's flight reflex. So as I'm sure if you've read any body language books or seen videos, we have a flight or freeze sort of setting as humans, or fight as well. We also have fight, flight, or freeze. And when someone comes too close to us, whether that's in person or on our laptop screen, sort of naturally we slightly want to recoil. And again, it doesn't lead for a very relaxing meeting. So getting that shot perfect is so important. And, sort of as an extension of talking of technology, we must talk about social media and how that has influenced modern manners. And before I do that, I'll take a sip of water because I feel I need to. It is so interesting. I mean, social media is fantastic in many ways. It's great fun when it's used properly and for good, but it can also be, let's be honest, a complete cesspit. And it gives everybody a voice, which is in many ways is fantastic, and that's very democratic. But with a voice, whether that's a voice politically, whether that's a voice diplomatically, within an organization, being the head of a school, anyone with a voice has to use that voice very carefully, and that's where social media perhaps sort of giving everybody a voice is very philosophical now, is sort of up for slight debate. Locked profiles, of course, are so much easier to manage, and you can say whatever you want within reason to your friends, and it doesn't go public. And it's sort of, I mean, obviously I have an open account because of who I am and what I am doing, and that doesn't work for everyone. But again, thinking before you post, a rule that I have always had, although my late grandmother is no longer with us, is anything that I post, if Granny saw it, would she tell me off? Would I have to explain it to her? How would she feel if she saw this? And I think whoever that person is in your life that you respect, whether that's a teacher that you had at school, a parent, a grandparent, and a great uncle or aunt, anyone sort of from an older generation who perhaps has slightly more conservative tendencies, just sort of keeping them in mind. I always think that's a good thing to have. And Granny, for those that don't know, gave me my first etiquette book, as I say, when I was 12, which is what got me interested in etiquette to begin with. So we must all thank Granny. It's actually who Just Good Manners is dedicated to right at the start, because she gave me this book, one of the books that's behind me. In fact, it's that sort of bluey book that you can slightly see right next to the American edition of Just Good Manners, which is slightly blurred due to the way my camera's set up. But she gave me this book when I was 12, and I don't really think she thought... I should also say she didn't give me this book because she thought I needed it, that she thought I was a rude person. She just thought that I would quite enjoy it. And thank God she did, because as I say in the dedication, for Granny, who gave me the book that launched 1,000 ships, because I am so lucky to do so many different things in my life. And they all stem from being an etiquette coach, and I wouldn't have been an etiquette coach if Granny hadn't have given me that book. So I am eternally grateful. And actually, when my mother, when I sent her a copy of the book, my mother, I hadn't told my mother, who was Granny was her daughter, that I had dedicated the book to Granny, and it meant an awful lot. So I was very glad to be able to do that. And don't forget, if you would like to have your own etiquette book at home, if you don't have one already, then I'd be delighted if you got a copy of Just Good Manners, which is published at the end of May 2025. You can go to signedgoodmanners.com if you would like an autographed edition, limited edition. Quantities are not great, so please don't think, if you do want one, don't think, oh well, I'll do it in a few weeks' time, because once they're gone, they're gone. And today only, if you use the code GOOD15, GOOD15, you will save 15%. But that code is only valid today. You can still order signed copies beyond today, although they may not be available, but the discount is only available today. Signedgoodmanners.com is where you need to go. So we have some rapid fire questions, although some of these questions that the lovely team at Premier Collectibles have sent me are great. So this may not be that rapid, but because I have big answers to give. But I'll go through them anyway. So I was born in Bristol. Bristol is in the southwest of England. And if you sort of know where London is on a map and go west, sort of directly west, that is Bristol. We were very fortunate that during school holidays, we often came to London. We had some family that lived just outside of London. But Bristol is lovely. If anyone has sort of loves coming to the UK and sort of wants a city to do that is not London or as well as London, Bristol, it's sort of by the sea, lots of sort of, it's quite hilly in places, not hills that you're going to have to put hiking boots on, don't worry. It sits on a cliff, Clifton, which is the place where I went to school, where I gave my very first etiquette lesson, because when I was sort of 16 at my school in Bristol, I was asked if I wanted to teach etiquette to the younger years at school. And I said, yes, well, I'll do that so long as I don't have to play any sport. And they said, yes, that's fine. You do it instead of sport. And that's how my etiquette career started. I had this love of etiquette from age 12, but I didn't start teaching it professionally. I mean, I wasn't paid for it, so I guess it doesn't count as professional. But I didn't start teaching it until I was 16, 17 at my school in Bristol. But Bristol's a really nice city. People really like it. What is my favourite colour? This has changed as I have got older. I used to like, as a child, I used to like yellow. But yet, although I've got a yellow pocket square on today, yellow is a difficult colour to wear, particularly when you're quite fair, as I am. So I don't often go in for yellow now. I do like green, can you tell? But I also like blue. Sort of this sort of blue. So basically, the colours I've actually come direct. Everything you're seeing today are my three favourite colours. The company I run as an etiquette training business, the English Manor, which I bought, it started in 2001, and I bought it in 2019. Our colour is sort of a deep royal purple, and I do like that colour very much, but it's not a colour that you see very often, and I do associate it with work. As much as I'm really fortunate to do a job that I love, it's not necessarily, I don't necessarily need to be thinking about it every single second of my life. So if I had to pick one, a British racing green, that is my favourite colour. What is the one thing you need to have in your fridge at all times? On a normal level, eggs. I love eggs, poached eggs, scrambled eggs, fried if I'm feeling indulgent, but that's not very often. However, the slightly more unusual thing that I'll often have in my fridge is a creamed horseradish sauce. Now, horseradish is, I think, is a vegetable. Technically, it's sort of also what you get wasabi from. So, if you're a fan of sushi, wasabi comes from horseradish, and it's a root plant, I think. And we often serve it as a sauce with roast beef or anything beef steak. To be honest, it is incredibly, as you know, if you're a wasabi fan, it's got a punch. So a creamed version, it's got a bit of cream stirred through it, so it's ever so slightly softer. Ever so slightly softer. I'm not sure that's grammatically correct, but we'll roll with it. And that is what I like. I like creamed horseradish, sometimes with things that aren't beef, but don't tell anyone, only when I'm at home on my own. But I do like creamed horseradish. Who is the most interesting person I have met recently? Oh, recently. Well, I mean, this morning, this is why I'm sort of dressed in a blazer and a tie. I was filming with one of the more popular Peloton instructors, Cody Rigsby, who did Dancing with the Stars, I believe, last year. He's very nice, very American. And he had come over to London to do some filming, and I was filming with him. So he was quite interesting and had lots to say, and we got on very well. And my aunt and godmother is a big Cody fan, so she was thrilled that I was meeting him. But one of the things I love about doing my job is that I get to meet so many different people from different walks of life. And yesterday I had a group of clients from Kurdistan. The other week I had some Japanese clients, some British clients. I was in the Middle East, in Oman recently for work. So it really is. I'm very lucky that I get to do different things with different hats on, do a bit of television, some radio, my podcast. So there's a lot of variety, and I know I'm really, really lucky to have that. My biggest pet peeve is people are, well, not saying thank you or please, because you don't need to have bought Just Good Manners or gone to an etiquette class to know that as a human being, you need to say please and thank you. But on a sort of slightly more nuclear or granular level, is people who don't introduce themselves. So when don't say who they are. For example, literally today, it happened on this shoot. I'm going to share this with you. I had a lovely makeup artist, Abby, who has worked with me for many years there. And there was another makeup artist on the shoot, although they arrived later. And they were not carrying makeup. And they did not introduce. I went, "Oh, hello, I'm William." And they said, "Hello." I said, "Hello." And she went, "Oh, I'm Debbie." I was like, "Oh, hello, Debbie." Debbie was not her name. I'm Debbie. And I said, "And this is Abby, my makeup artist." She went, "Oh, hello." And at no point did we realise that she was a makeup artist because she didn't give context. Now, we live in a world where we're not meant to live by labels, and we don't we're not meant to label each other, and that in many ways is great. But actually, sometimes it is helpful to go, I'm working on this shoot to support with hair and makeup, or I am the friend of Bob, who is the host of the party, or whatever it happens to be, just so we know what to say. It helps with small talk. So it annoys me when people don't do that, because then if something then happens and you inadvertently say the wrong thing, or let's say you say something bad about Bob, not that you should, but you say, oh, don't touch the lasagna. The Bob can't cook. The lasagna is terrible. And actually, that's Bob's best friend, or it's Bob's partner, and you didn't know that because they didn't give the context. That can be quite awkward. So when you're introducing yourself, say your name at absolute minimum, but also give a bit of context as to who you are. My favourite hobby, I like ironing. It's very dull, but I do like ironing. My favourite guilty pleasure TV show is Desperate Housewives, obviously no longer made, but I can always watch that. Well, is it? Should I feel guilty about that pleasure? I don't think so. Or Frasier, I love as well, or Keeping Up Appearances. My favourite guilty pleasure junk food would be a pizza. Just a classic margarita, maybe with a bit of cotto ham on it, but probably just a margarita. Who is the last band I listened to? Band. I listened to the collab, is that the word, thing between Troye Sivan and Dua Lipa, re-released Physical, and Troye Sivan is singing on it. So I listened to that yesterday. And the final question, where do you want to go that you have never been? Japan. Really, really keen to go to Japan. I've always said that the Japanese, and I've worked with a lot of Japanese, are probably the only nation that make the British look laid back. And I say that with love. And I think Japan is a wonderful country from all the things I've heard about it and what friends have said. We nearly went for honeymoon, but it was sort of still COVID-y time in Japan, and we would have had to have quarantined, and that's not really what anyone wants on honeymoon, so we didn't go, and we came to America instead. So yes, that is where I would like to go next, that I've never been to. I would love to go to Japan. I hope you have enjoyed our conversation today. I have enjoyed talking to all of you. And if you have already bought Just Good Manners, or you are going to buy Just Good Manners, whether it's for you, for a friend, for a relative, because it does make a good gift. It's a good reference book for life, really. I'm really, really grateful that you have done that. That means an awful lot to me. My life was changed when Granny gave me an etiquette book, so you never know what giving the gift of manners, whether that's to yourself or someone else, could do. If you would like an autographed edition, remember you can head to signedgoodmanners.com, and today only, there is 15% off with the code GOOD15, GOOD15. You can use that at checkout to save 15% today on a autographed luxury signed editions, thanks to my friends at Premier Collectibles. Thank you so much indeed. I am so excited that this is going to be released in the USA and Canada as of May the 27th, and thank you again for tuning in today.